Hello, everyone. For those of you who have joined us again after lunch or are joining us for the first time, my name is Maha. I'm the UCCS coordinator. That's the Unionville Community Center for Seniors coordinator. And I'm also the event moderator and tech support for today. Without further ado, we're going to get started with our afternoon presenters. Our first presentation this afternoon is about us on behalf of Vision Loss Rehabilitation Ontario. And I will let our presenter take it away now. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen and spotlight your video, Kerrie.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here. Oh, okay. So hopefully everyone can hear me. Hello. Good afternoon. My name is Kerrie St, and I'm a Senior Manager of Healthcare Operations with Vision Loss Rehabilitation Ontario, supporting our rehabilitation teams working out of the York region, as well as Simcoe, Muskoka, Northeastern and Northwestern Ontario. And I'm happy to share with you some information about our organization and some tips and things to think about when you are interacting with those who are experiencing sight loss. So I have some slides that I will look at sharing my screen and share and put it in slideshow. Great. Can I just get a thumbs up? Perfect. Great. So welcome, everyone. And here's some information about Vision Loss Rehabilitation Ontario. So our primary focus and purpose for existing in the community and across the country is to work with individuals who have a diagnosis of uncorrectable vision loss and recognizing that this is a significant turning point in somebody's life. So we believe that people require the right information and a clear pathway to services and supports they need to adapt and thrive. So Vision Loss Rehabilitation Canada works with clients and their families, as well as their allies in healthcare and other community service providers, so that we can work together as a team to assist the individual to overcome some of the barriers and challenges that they're experiencing, and to ensure that we're focused on the individual and in supporting their seamless connections and being compassionate to their needs. So it can be a difficult time when somebody experiences sight loss, and it could be yourself or a family member or friend or somebody that you know in your community. And we just want to let you know that we are here to help as an organization. And some of you may already be familiar with CNIB, or the Canadian National Institute for the Blind. And I'll just take a little side path here to let you know that about 4.5–5 years ago, we were all one organization. And our rehab services were being delivered through CNIB, which existed as a charitable organization. Through a significant amount of advocacy and a lot of hard work across the country, we were able to advocate for the rights of individuals experiencing sight loss to have their rehab services funded through ministries of health in the different provinces and territories, and thus came to existence Vision Loss Rehabilitation Canada. So CNIB is still an organization that exists. They provide valuable programs and resources as well for individuals who are blind or partially sighted, and really try to help and enhance a person's experience and overcome some barriers as well. So living with vision loss, currently we are the province's leading provider in rehabilitation therapy for people who are blind or partially sighted. And we offer a range of services that will help support and enhance independence, safety, and mobility. We have a team of certified specialists that work with the individual, as well as collaborating with eye care practitioners, such as ophthalmologists and optometrists, and other healthcare professionals so that we can pull together a rehabilitation plan to help assess and teach techniques to complete daily tasks when you're living with sight loss. So Vision Loss Rehabilitation Ontario is funded by the Government of Ontario through local health integration networks or through the Ministry of Health. And our early intervention programs and services for our youngest clients are funded through the Ministry of Children and Youth. So when you experience sight loss, and you have some remaining sight, our first service that I'd like to highlight is our low vision services. And we have staff who can really work with understanding what you are seeing in your environment and to look at ways to maximize the sight that you have left. And some of the strategies that they will explore with you is perhaps providing a functional vision assessment to see how you are interacting with your environment and where the greatest barriers are that are being experienced due to sight loss. And looking at lighting needs, the use of colors to contrast things in the environment to make it safer, using different aids and devices that could help magnify things. And there's a wide range of different specialty items, and recognizing as well the value of interacting with a low vision specialist so that they can show you the array of options available so that you can make a more informed decision should you feel the need that the purchase of one of these devices is going to benefit you. I'm just checking to see if I should be pausing for questions, just because there's some dinging.
That is folks just coming into the meeting back from lunch, Kerrie. So
Okay.
I will monitor the chat on your behalf if that's okay with you. And if we have questions, you can address them as you go, or you can address them at the end, whatever you're more comfortable with.
Excellent, thank you.
No problem.
So another area of service provision that we provide is to work with people on the essential skills for daily living activities. So when you have something that impacts your ability to see, some of these everyday tasks can become more challenging. So we will work with individuals to show, for example, safe ways to prepare and cook your meals, using and interacting with household appliances and other things in your home environment, washer and dryer, the remote for a television, is providing some assistance and strategies to label things so that they're easier to identify. This is vitally important should you not be able to read the labels on your medications. How to organize and identify money, and how to set up and organize things in your home environment so that you can access them easier. There are some, again, aids and devices that might be beneficial to include in your home environment. The use of large print, audio devices. So should your vision no longer provide you with adequate information, we might need to explore alternatives to receive information and using audio and tactile. So for some individuals, if reading print is no longer an option, our independent living skills specialists can introduce and teach the Braille code, if that is a method that is a goal for an individual. Looking at getting audio devices in place. So if you're not able to read the correspondence that comes to you in the mail, or if you really enjoy reading books but are no longer able to use your sight to read books, these specialists can help with getting you connected for library services to provide audiobooks and the equipment necessary to be able to interact with audiobooks. So as you can imagine, that loss of sight will have a direct impact on your ability to travel and navigate. For a lot of people who are no longer able to drive a car independently, this is an emotional obstacle to overcome, and looking at other methods of transportation, as well as being able to navigate in familiar and unfamiliar environments. So we have specialists in orientation and mobility, and they are able to work with clients to help them understand where they are in space and how to get from one place to another safely. There's a variety of different techniques, and some of them can include walking with a sighted person. So a sighted guide is a technique that can be taught and can be beneficial for family members and friends and coworkers to assist the person experiencing sight loss to navigate using a sighted guide. And there are also mobility tools and aids. So some of you might be familiar with the white cane. The white cane can come in a couple of different styles. There's an ID cane, which is very compact in size and can be tucked away and pulled out as needed. There's a support cane that can be used that has a white shaft, and then a mobility cane. And the mobility cane is typically a cane that is held in a hand and reaches out in front of the individual about 2.5 paces in front of the individual, so that if the end of the cane comes in contact with an obstacle, the person holding the cane has about 1.5 steps or 2 steps to be able to react and find a safer route. You may also have come across individuals who use a guide dog to help them safely navigate. And our orientation mobility specialist can be part of the process to assist somebody to learn these skills and access these tools. We do have specialized services for very young children. So for those children who are not yet in school, so infants, toddlers, and preschoolers, there are specialized service providers that work with the child and the family to help achieve some of the developmental milestones and help prepare the student for attending school. And assistive technology. So it is said that technology can really help balance the playing field for individuals who are living with sight loss. And there's a wide range of technologies and devices that an individual can explore and have an assessment to determine what could best meet their needs depending on what their personal goals are. So as mentioned earlier, if you have difficulty reading the things that come to you in the mail, then there are different strategies and devices that could support that, ranging from handheld magnifiers to desktop video magnifiers to scanning machines that will scan a printed document and then verbally read out the content that's on the page. And in more recent years, we've been able to see some great success with different apps that can be put onto iPads and smartphones and devices, smart tablets, that can have some of these features built into an over-the-counter device. So not everything that can best meet the client's needs to come from a specialized store. Sometimes we are having great success in clients utilizing more mainstream technologies with adapted apps. So that's an overview of the different specialized services that we provide as a part of an individual's rehabilitation plan. And not all of the services may be required. It could be just 1 or 2, or it could be all. So the team will come together and work with the individual to identify what the goals are and work towards achieving them. So how do you get started? If you are experiencing sight loss and you feel that these services would be beneficial for you, it starts with a conversation with your healthcare provider. If you have an opportunity to see an optometrist or an ophthalmologist, to discuss the concerns or what you're experiencing with your vision. And they provide a comprehensive exam. They can support you by accessing rehab services through a referral form that they can complete. And we do like to emphasize that it's important for your ocular health to maintain routine eye exams. And I know that over the last couple of years, there have been some barriers for a lot of people to be able to access and to maintain those visits. So hopefully those barriers are no longer in place, should you need to. So you can ask your healthcare provider to send a referral to our organization. We have a referral form that's on our website that can be completed and submitted securely from our website. And it can be completed by an ophthalmologist, optometrist, or other medical professional. And we also have an opportunity for community service providers to complete the referral form and send it to us. And that route would just require that we loop back with an eye care practitioner that can give us further details about what your diagnosis may be for your vision loss, or any other details relating to what could potentially be causing you to experience sight loss. So we work hard to make sure that anybody that's referred to us can be contacted within 10 business days so that we can assist you in your rehabilitation journey. So on this slide right now, there is a kind of an image of what the referral form looks like and the type of information that we are seeking. So essentially finding out when the eye exam took place and who the eye doctor is, your information so that we can contact you, so name, address, phone number. There is a spot for a health card number and an area for the eye doctor to be able to highlight what is causing the sight loss. Is there a disease or a diagnosis? What could be the visual acuities? And it's a really good information for us to receive so that we can start planning out what strategies we think will best support your rehab journey so that we have a place to get started. So just for reference sake, oh, sorry, I jumped too fast. For reference sake, there are a couple of definitions also on this slide. So the term low vision, so somebody who is experiencing 20/70 or less, and basically how those things are determined by doing the eye exam and essentially reading the letters off the chart that the eye doctor shows you. So somebody who has low vision versus somebody who is legally blind. And just to clarify, the definition of legal blindness is actually set by the Government of Canada, and we use it as a guideline. So somebody who is legally blind would have a visual acuity of 20/200 or less in their best eye after correction, so after the prescriptive lenses have been in place. And what that essentially means is that somebody who has 20/20 vision could stand 200 feet away from, say, that large letter E at the top of the vision chart, whereas somebody who is experiencing 20/200 vision would need to be 20 feet away from it. So the same image for somebody with 20/200 vision would be 20 feet away from the item, and somebody who has 20/20 vision could see that same item from 200 feet away. So the other definition of legal blindness is if your peripheral vision has decreased to 20 degrees or less. So you wouldn't be able to see things kind of coming at you from the right side, left side, above you or below you, because there's something interfering with that, with your sight. So some of the things that we experience as we age that can impact our sight. So the eyeball itself, the lens, as we get older, it becomes less and less flexible, which is typically when we want our arms to get longer and longer, so that we can try to focus clearly on what we are trying to read. So as it becomes less flexible and thicker, that's where we tend to see that objects that are near to us are a little more challenging to see. And something else that we tend to experience as we get older are floaters. So the fluid on the inside of the eye and on the retina, which is a lining on the back of the eyeball, it tends to thin as we get older and begins to pull away. So sometimes we experience floaters in our sight that interrupt our ability to see things clearly. And dry eyes is another common occurrence, where the outer tear layer and the fatty layer fail to form and produce excess water to help keep the eyes lubricated. This slide has quite a lot on it, and I will read them all out. So when you have sight loss, or when you're experiencing sight loss, these are some of the common characteristics that might be recognized by yourself or by others around you. So I'll read them out. When you can no longer see to read your correspondence, so your mail, your magazines, newspapers, and so on. Not being able to see lines on a page or having them appear wavy. Where you're having to bring material closer and squint, when your handwriting becomes larger or shakier, when you find that you need more intense lighting or additional lighting to be able to see what you're doing, when you consistently misplace items, they're not set down in the same location, or you're not able to kind of pick them up accurately after you've placed them down. So awkwardly reaching for items. Difficulty identifying colors. When you're starting to experience more injuries on the sides of your body, this tends to be like if you continuously walk into door frames or bump into objects in your environment regularly. So you get bruising on one side of your body because you're not able to visually approach it to avoid it. Approaching stairs very cautiously and slowing down when you're getting to changes in floor direction, or overcompensating for the height of stairs. So sometimes we refer to that as overstepping, where you're stepping higher than necessary. Having a hard time walking in a straight line, overfilling or spilling food and drinks, under or overcooking food because you're not able to visually reference whether or not it's been prepared appropriately, or more frequent burns because you're not targeting the cooking device or the objects that you're using while cooking. Being sensitive to very bright lights is also could be an indicator. Shuffling your feet and keeping your head down when walking. Tripping and falling more often, experiencing double vision or distortion of your vision, excess tearing or swelling around your eyes, flashes of light or halos around lights, where you find that your vision might fluctuate, especially if you're going from a brightly lit environment to a dim or dark environment. Sometimes you need some time to adjust, but if you're experiencing that in one environment, then it could be an indicator to go and see an eye care practitioner, or when you have floaters in your eyes that don't go away. So if you're experiencing these regularly, or if you're experiencing a number of these different things, then it could be an indicator to go and have an eye doctor check your vision and see if there's some treatments or strategies that they can put into place that can help improve your sight, and where you are not able to have those strategies remedy your situation, you can then perhaps benefit from some of the services that we provide. So this slide as well has some photos on it, and essentially it is sharing with you what the 4 leading causes of sight loss are currently in Canada. So the #1 cause of sight loss in Canada is age-related macular degeneration. For those individuals who are experiencing this eye condition, they will notice that their central vision, things in the center of their vision become distorted and blurred out, and everything surrounding that will also get blurry. So it can start off very small and then grow larger if it's not caught and treated. Depending on the type of macular degeneration, there are some pretty successful treatment strategies. And then for others who are not able to successfully have it treated medically, and the sight loss is more permanent, then again, those are individuals who could benefit from the services that we provide. Cataracts are also a very popular, well, not popular, but a common diagnosis. And the majority of people experiencing cataracts are adults and older adults. However, there are occasions where children can be born with cataracts. So there are surgical procedures and treatments that can be put into place to help support people with cataracts to regain their vision. The next one that's indicated here is diabetic retinopathy. So for those individuals who have a diagnosis of diabetes, there are increased risks to their vision. And the image is showing these 2 little boys that are holding balls, one a soccer ball and one a bouncy ball. And for people who have diabetic retinopathy, it's like black spots that start to take over their vision, and they're not able to see the full picture. And the 4th diagnosis that is most common in Canada is glaucoma. And glaucoma is an eye condition where your visual periphery starts to decrease. So you start to lose more and more of the visual field. And again, that's where you can miss or keep, like if you're consistently walking into door frames and into furniture, it could be because you're experiencing some sight loss in your periphery, or if you get startled because you didn't have the opportunity to prepare yourself when something was coming from out, like beyond you to directly in front of you. So glaucoma can be a bit of a sneaky eye condition because we don't always notice when our peripheral vision is being impacted. And my slide is not progressing. There we go. So this next slide just reiterates what I was talking about with some of the characteristics of those common eye conditions. So age-related macular degeneration is where you have a central field loss, but your side vision or your field of vision is clearer. So you would see the outlines of people, but not necessarily their faces. And you would have a very difficult time reading fine or regular print. Somebody experiencing cataracts would experience cloudy or blurred vision, some color distortion, things would seem very faded, and you would be experiencing glare from bright light. So glare becomes a challenge. Bright sunlit days or having light shone into your eyes, or sometimes in the wintertime on sunny days where the snow starts to glare back up from you from the ground. People who are experiencing glaucoma will have restricted visual fields. So it's almost as though they start looking at the world through a toilet paper roll or a straw, depending on how much of their field loss that they have. So you start missing objects that are beside you or below you or above you. And if untreated, it could cause full sight loss or complete blindness, and it can be a very gradual condition. So, so these are some ideas to consider to help support somebody who is living with sight loss. And so I'll just read them out on the slide because, again, there's a lot of information. So remember that the individual may not always recognize your voice. So we recommend that you announce your name when you arrive and announce when you are leaving the environment. So when speaking to them, use their name so that you know you are talking to them and not just somebody else in the room. It can be very embarrassing for somebody who is blind or has low vision if they start up a conversation thinking that there's somebody in the room with them when there isn't, or if somebody has left and they're trying to reach out to them to ask them for assistance. So announcing when you're in the space and when you're leaving the space is very helpful. Make sure that you speak directly to the person who is blind and not to a companion or a family member, and use a normal tone of voice. You don't need to raise your voice unless they've indicated that they are also experiencing some hearing loss. Give information about what you are about to do, especially if you're going to make physical contact, and it's okay to ask what they can see. So this just helps prepare, especially if you want to offer sighted guide support to help them get from one place to another. Communication is very valuable so that they're a partner with you in the experience and they don't feel as though people are doing things to them, but you're doing things with them. Asking if assistance is required. So it's okay for an individual to decline assistance if they feel that they're able to do it on their own. So not kind of pushing or pulling or physically taking them. It's important, again, for the communication piece. And then you can offer your arm if you want to offer them sighted guide. But it's okay if they decline that because they are able to do that perhaps using their mobility cane or another strategy. If you are providing sighted guide assistance and you need to separate from them or leave, we recommend that you find a location in the room that makes sense for them. So assisting them to a chair or a specific place in the room, a wall, a hand railing. And again, communication about what's happening in the environment is just going to help them prepare for what they want to do next. And another good strategy is to make sure that we don't rearrange things in a person's environment if they have no sight or very low sight. If they've already practiced putting things in specific locations, it's important not to rearrange them, especially in important items to them, so that they're able to find them easily. So this is my last slide. It has some contact information about our organization, how you can reach out to us by phone or email, and our website. And I am open to receive any questions people might have.
Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation, Kerrie. I'm going to allow you to leave your slide up right now so that people can copy down the contact information if they need to, and so they can see you when you're answering their questions. If anyone has any questions at this time, please unmute yourself and speak, or raise your hand or drop your question into the chat and we will read it out.
Hi, I'm Jane Preston. I'm a nurse with the geriatric outreach team. My question actually is related to the community service providers referring to you. So my role when I'm out in a client's home is to assess their functional ability and their cognitive ability and so on. And often we're given diagnosis via the family, just that they're sometimes, if they're legally blind, or just that they do have glaucoma or macular degeneration. And having no expertise whatsoever in terms of visual assessment, but recognizing perhaps that my client might not be able to work their remote or can no longer read, and it's got them very depressed that they aren't able to see or function, as you said, to read their mail, those kind of things. When I have a client that has no family support, has no technology, and perhaps limited finances or cannot access a lot of mobility to get to their ophthalmologist or optometrist. Previously, we used to be able to refer to the CNIB for home assistance for these folks. And then with the addition of requiring an ophthalmologist or optometrist to write their visual prescription on there, I have found that that's a real barrier for a lot of our clients. So I'm just wondering, you did mention we need to loop back to the ophthalmologist or eye care professional regarding their vision. Can you suggest what might be perhaps a way to decrease that barrier for our clients, that we can refer, send you our reports of why they're functionally limited and what the next steps might be?
Right. So, yeah, we don't want there to be barriers to access for services that can support somebody overcoming some of their barriers due to sight loss. So we are able to work with individuals. It's beneficial for us to have the eye information, but we can receive that information from the client, do our assessments on how they're functioning in the various areas, and provide recommendations and training and information about aids and devices. The one factor, should there be a device that an individual would like to purchase, our specialists are able to authorize for the Assistive Devices Program funds through the Ministry of Health for the purchase of visual aids. One of the criteria that determines eligibility for that funding is to have an eye report from an eye care practitioner that is less than 12 months old. So that is where we would absolutely require that if that was to support the client's goal in being able to successfully obtain devices through that program set by the Ministry of Ontario. Outside of that particular area, we can still deliver rehab services to an individual until an eye report can be received. It tends to be how the majority of our clients get referred to the organization, is through an eye care practitioner based on an assessment that the medical doctor has completed and sent us the information. And when the referrals come from family members, from clients themselves, or community service providers, we don't always have that eye information from a doctor up front, but we encourage the client to see an eye care practitioner, to be evaluated, because that medical need is still very necessary. And then it provides some additional information, but it isn't a barrier to access rehabilitation services. The only time it would be an absolute factor is if the individual wanted to be assessed to determine their eligibility to get the Assistive Devices Program funds through the Ministry of Health to subsidize the purchase of a visual aid.
That's great. Kerrie, thank you. I'm glad to know it's not a barrier anymore, because I certainly know that has been a challenge. So if we can go ahead then and refer, and then you can determine if they do need to purchase any assistive devices, then they could pursue the eye exam. And I certainly, as a nurse, I recognize the importance of having that information from an eye care professional, but I just find that not all of them, and certainly in the last 2 years, I would say probably 90% of my clients won't have had that done,
Yes.
perhaps higher. And so I'm glad to know we can carry on with a referral. Thank you so much. It's been a great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question, Jane. I see in the chat, Naz, do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Sure. Kerrie, do you do presentations for seniors?
Yes, for sure. We do realize that the evolution of CNIB and the creation of Vision Loss Rehabilitation Ontario is still very new. So we're happy to present and share details and help with the understanding about the organization and the focus of the work that we do.
Okay, and this is the email that can get in touch with you, right?
Yes, so info at Vision Loss Rehab, so info at VLREHAB.ca is an email that comes into the organization, and depending on what the person is looking for, what type of information, it will get directed to the appropriate person. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for that question, Naz. Does anyone else here have any questions that they want to address to Kerrie before we move on to our next presentation? I'm not seeing any more questions right now, but of course, if you have any questions that come to you later, please do drop them in the chat. I think Satya is saying thank you, Kerrie, very much for your presentation. She took the words right out of my mouth. Thank you so much, Kerrie, for taking the time to share this information with us today. We so appreciate it. And again, if anyone has any questions that do come to them later, please do let us know, and we'll be sure to link you to Kerrie. And of course, you can always visit the website, call this telephone number, or use the email here, info@vlrehab.ca. Thank you again, Kerrie.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.